like to give me an overview of where you've been for the last 30 days, 60 days in terms of this, everything you discussed. Just give me a brief
overview. The Gemara really changed shit. And so we have cases. The Mishnahs that usually
Tell me what we did for the past 30 days. The Canavidi experience.
what
30 days in the Gemara.
the cases where you get lashes, but in reality you're supposed to get cut it, and sometimes you get cut it.
This is
Right,
good
Rabbi?
also about.
That's what the general topic is about. Exceptions in the when you're supposed to get cut it, you get cut food.
Is there malchus when they get correct? Is there malchus
Praying
when
of
they
sins.
get the court kills the person? Is there malchus proceeding with the capital punishment? And then we got into also Tomah, got into going to the bit of the
These are exceptions to the general rules, right?
I mean,
The general rules.
You're right. The general rule is when a person violates something that's a low stat, don't do something, generally there'll be lashes for it.
the penalty.
That's the general penalty, right? But we have, like many things, we have exceptions to the rule. There are certain cases that there's exceptions, there's no lashes. Like what we've been discussing recently, we're discussing when the Torah gives a positive commandment that follows a violation, the Torah gives a positive commandment preceding a violation. So we said, generally speaking, the general opinion is the Torah gave, if a person does a violation, person don't do something and he does it, we said gets lashes, correct? But that's the penalty. But there's an exception if the Torah tells us some other fix. The Torah tells us a positive commandment following a violation. That positive commandment is directly addressing the violation, that becomes the punishment, not the lashes. Good morning, Mr. Safdie. That takes over. It means the Torah is telling you, I want something else to be the punishment, not the lashes. Good morning, Mr. Safdie. Right. All the cases of the Mishnah are correct that carry lashes. Correct. And other cases that don't carry correct. Say it again. There are cases that are malkud and not correct. Right. Not every, only certain higher level sins carry with it correct, being cut off in the next row. Yep. Right. Because of our Mishnah, because our Mishnah says, send him out from the camp. Remember, our Mishnah said, how do we get into this whole discussion? Is because our Mishnah said that if a person enters the Beit HaMikdash in a status of contamination, he violates the prohibition of don't contaminate the camp. And as a result of that, he is subject to lashes. That's what our Mishnah said.
If he goes in
Impure. If he goes in impure, he goes into the Temple Mount, or he goes into the Beit HaMikdash. He goes certain areas. He impure. He will become. He will violate the violation, and as a result of doing that action, he gets lashes. That's what our Mishnah said. If he contaminates the camp, he goes into the camp. He goes into the courtyard of the temple. Let's say he had some other. Let's say he went to a cemetery prior. He was at a funeral prior, and now an animal that died that wasn't slaughtered properly. An animal that was slaughtered properly, if cow is slaughtered properly, will not contaminate somebody. But an avela, an animal that was not slaughtered and that just died, that would contaminate a person. He has to go to the mikveh to remove that contamination. So if he's in a status of, if he goes ahead, there's nothing wrong with becoming to become impure. Nothing wrong for a person to go to a funeral or touching a dead animal. The only problem is if he enters the temple in that state. Meaning you can't enter the temple in a state of impurity. Lashes and 39 lashes for entering the temple right? In a static, that's why I was saying, Mr. Haber, they're doing a lot of archaeological digs they've done around the temple area, and they're finding mikvot. They're finding these holes in the ground. They're finding these collections. They were formerly collections of water that they're digging from thousands of years ago. Because everybody, before you go into the Beit HaMikdash, if you touch a dead animal that wasn't slaughtered, or you can't go in. So there's many mikvos around the Beit HaMikdash, like we spoke about. That's why many people have a custom that they go to the mikveh erev Yom Tov. Besides Rosh Hashanah, erev Rosh Hashanah. Good morning, Yehuda. Besides before Rosh Hashanah, and besides before Yom Kippur, right? If you'll say what are the two most common times a year that people go to the mikveh? It's before Rosh Hashanah and before Yom Kippur, right? That's maybe Yom Kippur is the highest level. More people go. If we'll call the actuary up, the statistician, he'll say that more people go. With probably in my neighborhood, I can tell you, the old Lower East Side. I would think is erev Yom Kippur is the winner for the gets the most votes. Second place, second most is erev Rosh Hashanah. It's second, and then third place is erev Yom Tov. That's third place, and fourth place is erev Shabbat. That's fourth place, right? So what did you say, Mr. Aber? That seems to be and it's brought down in halacha. The Aruch HaShulchan brings down. I'm going to be learning with Michael Aruch HaShulchan today, Bez Hashem. After the minyan, he brings down, Michael's his brother, that Aruch HaShulchan brings down in honor of Shabbat. There's an idea, there's an inyan to show honor to Shabbat, to go to the mikveh erev Shabbat. Anytime in honor of the Shabbat. In honor of the Shabbat, a person. That's fine. That's in honor of the Shabbat, just like the other things that we do. You have in mind, you're going to the mikveh Friday morning in honor of Shabbat. That's it, and that's a great thing. And we would yes. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning,
Yes.
Rabbi.
Good morning. Good to see you. Good morning, Mr. Vitesh. Yes, Mr. Vitesh. If someone goes to very good. That's the big question, Mr. Vitesh's point. The Torah says, what's the fix? Is there a fix? Right. What is there a fix to go into the temple contaminated? The answer is there is a fix. The fix is to leave. That's the fix. But the question is, he came in contaminated. He has to get out. Just like if he goes into the Beit HaMikdash contaminated. Very good. There is a punishment for him to go into the Beit HaMikdash in the state of contamination. The punishment is kareh, being cut off from the next row. But the Mishnah also states that we give him lashes, and we're going to have another Mishnah that's going to say that the lashes will remove the kareh. That means there's an obligation of kareh, but our Mishnah, as the doctor and other pointing out, our Mishnah talks about cases that have kareh, that are cut off from the next road, but are subject to lashes. The fact that a person is cut off from those type of sins that are cut off from the next world, with a court down here does not do anything to the person, which is kareh, that sin is subject to lashes. Now the question is, the Gemara stated that, so to speak, the fix of getting out of the camp in the state of contamination applies before the violation as well. Because good morning, Adam. The Gemara said that if a person goes ahead and finds himself in the camp, he's in the camp, and let's say while he's in the camp, he became contaminated. Okay? Let's say he was slaughtering an animal in the camp and he botched up the job. And he didn't do a good job on the animal. He didn't do a proper slaughtering. Therefore, that animal is in the velah. That animal is a dead carcass. And that dead carcass contaminates the person. And if he became contaminated, which I bet happened a lot. Not every time you do the perfect job in the slaughtering. Sometimes the animal, so what happens as a result of that? He leaves immediately the camp. If he leaves the camp contaminated, and if he leaves right away, he's not in violation. How long? That's Mr. Batesh's question. Is it Batesh had asked that question? What is that amount of time? That's something we have to look up. What that time amount is? What's the time? What's the time frame? I mean, it's the Torah says. Oh, you say, what do you do with the animal that's contaminated? That's a good question. That's a good question. What do they do with such an animal? Because if the people, since they're in a place that's forbidden to contaminate yourself, what do you do with that animal? So unless we say the same way you have time to get out, so you could bring out the animal with you. I mean, but I'm not sure if that is what they do. But technically, that would be without further research, that would be a solution: is get the animal out, right? You can come out, take it with you. Now, but the mitzvah, the commandment to leave the camp, is written before the Torah tells us about the violation of don't contaminate the camp. The Torah first says, extend out of the camp. Anybody who's contaminated, get him out. That's a positive commandment. One of the 613 mitzvahs is, if you contaminate it, out. Right, Mr. Safdie? And then the Torah says, Vishalchu, first it says, Vishalchu min hamachaneh, send out. And then the Torah says, and don't contaminate your camp. So the positive commandment precedes the violation. Of the violation of contaminating the camp. And that positive commandment not only kicks in before the violation, but if he violated and he remained in the camp and he didn't move out, he violates that sin of contaminating the camp, but he has a mitzvah to get out. He still has a fix to get out. The fact that you did something wrong doesn't mean you don't have a fix on it. Good morning, Nathan. Yes, he has a positive commandment to get out. Now the question is, does he get lashes? Let's say he walks out, he goes out. Does he get lashes for his violation of originally staying in the camp and contaminating the camp? He was warned. Let's say when he became contaminated in the camp, or even before he went to camp, he was told, you're not allowed to go in, or you got to get out. And if you don't get out, if you go in, you're going to get lashes. And he violated the warning. Will he get lashes for that contamination of the camp? Has to be no lashes without warning, Mr. Abraham. The Torah does not give anybody a punishment that the court is going to give a punishment to someone unless he was warned. Unless we could ascertain that he knows about it, he knows what he's doing, he knows what the consequences of his actions are, and he nevertheless brazen about it. He doesn't live, and we go ahead and we give him. And there's witnesses to testify. 2 witnesses we need, not 1 witness. 2 witnesses need to testify on the deal, minimum of 2, and then he gets. That's what he has to get lashes. But the point is what you say, and he'll get karet. But the lashes could remove the karet. We're gonna find. Now, so the Gemara wanted to say this case, one of the rabbis in the Gemara shows us that even though the positive commandment of getting out of the camp preceded any violation, still, and yet, even though it precedes, and it also works, it takes effect before violation and after violation, because before you remained in the camp, you had a commandment to get out. And after you remained in the camp and you violated, you stayed in the camp, you contaminated the camp, you also have a mitzvah to get out. And nevertheless, what do we say? He gets lashes. So if he gets lashes, so that is the proof that a fix, that even though it's a fix that applies after the violation, as long as that fix was given prior to the violation, it's not called a real fix. This type of fix that was given before the violation, meaning to say, the only time a fix, a positive commandment would remove lashes if it's coming only as a response of the violation. That the Torah says, this is what I want you to do to correct the violation. But if the Torah tells us the correction independent of the violation, meaning it doesn't say it as a correction only. It's not given as a correction. It's given independent of any violation. That's not called a fix that removes the lashes. A fix that removes the lashes is only something that is coming to a following a violation. The Torah says, I want you to do this. So therefore the Torah is saying, I want this. I don't want any other punishment. I want this to be don't steal. If you steal, return. So the returning is the Torah's addressing the violation, and that's what the Torah wants from the guy. Right, Nathan? Return it. So it doesn't want to give the guy lashes for stealing. But if the Torah tells us a commandment, and I say what you need to do before the violation, so therefore that has nothing to do with it's not given to remove the lashes of a violation. It's coming
in the case of the Korban, when they don't
finish
when they don't finish it, and they say burn it the next day, the next day.
Right.
So,
they're the midst of burning it, as we're talking about a case of nota. The Torah says don't leave, let's say, the offering for the next morning, right? Let's say the Korban Pesach. You have to eat it that day, that night. Don't leave it till the morning. Continue, Mr. Asby. And he left it to the morning, but the Torah says
so the fix is after
the violation. The fix only kicks in there. After the fix.
They don't mention it. They don't mention it before.
Right. So therefore, that's what the Torah is telling us.
And if he didn't do it,
if he, as long as he, we're going to see in the Gemara, as long as he has the ability, is capable of burning it, when he left it over to the morning, he violated the violation, he left it over to the morning. And then he went ahead and he has the opportunity to burn it in the morning. As long as the opportunity to burn it remains, we're going to see, according to Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan says he has an open-end window, that as long as he's capable of burning it, he gets no lashes. But the fix is here. The fix of the violation is the Torah gave the fix, burn it. But the Torah didn't give the mitzvah of burning it before the violation. It's only in response. The fix is a positive commandment. When we say fix here, everybody, it's one thing we're referring to. The fix is a positive commandment that Torah says, this is what I want you to do. So when it's coming as a result of the violation, that's coming to tell us that is the punishment. Nothing else is the punishment. Okay. Right, so good, very good. Right, so that's what, very good, very good. So Yaron was saying we're going to have to, the Gemara used, that's what Rabbah, in the beginning of the page, Rabbah said that this is the source for the original teaching of Rabbi Yochanan. The Rabbi Yochanan went on record, and Rabbi Yochanan said that a Torah says that don't violate something, but the Torah gave you a positive commandment before the violation would be subject to lashes because it's not called a fix, and his source was from this case, Yaron, of the entering the temple, of being contaminated, which the mitzvah positive commandment came before, applies before the violation, applies after the violation, and you still get lashes. So we see it's not a true fix. And most probably that in a different case, the case of contamination. That case, the Torah said that if a guy enters, if a guy is in the temple and it becomes contaminated and he leaves, he doesn't get any lashes if he leaves right away, because he didn't violate. We didn't determine how long. There's a certain amount of time. Obviously, it's much shorter than that. There's a certain window of time that he has to get out without violating. It's the same thing. This is before, right? Before he violated. So, right. So it's like there is such a thing also by chametz on Pesach. Guy finds chametz on Pesach. Person, you're not allowed to have chametz on Pesach. The violation, the violation would kick in if he delays and he wants to keep it. But if let's say he finds chametz on Pesach and he gets rid of it right away, the violation is not violated. So there is, so there the time period might be, do I want to keep it or I don't want to keep it? Here, the time, we didn't, right, the only thing we did conclude, we only stated that there is a time period if a person becomes contaminated, when he's in the camp, when he's in the Beit HaMikdash, he gets in contact with a dead animal, he has a window of time to get out, and he has no violation. And the Torah tells us a positive commandment, get out of the camp. Get out of the camp. That's the positive commandment. But that mitzvah to get out of the camp applies before he contaminated himself. And if he didn't listen and he violated that, he stayed in the camp, the amount of time that he would violate, it still kicks in this. He still has the positive commandment, get out. He still has a biblical obligation to get out of the camp. And even if he gets out of the camp afterwards, after he wakes up, he smells the coffee, and even after he violated, gets out, he will get lashes, the Mishnah says. Why does he get lashes? Because the mitzvah to get out of the camp came before the violation. It came before and after. It's not the removal of. It's right. You have to get out, but it doesn't take the lashes. That's Rabbi Yochanan. If it's only coming after, it removes the lashes. That is what Rabbi Yochanan originally stated. Right. The case of the rape case, he raped her, right? Right. The marriage over there, we explained yesterday, it's not a fix of the rape. It's a mitzvah to marry. That's a mitzvah he has to do. The Torah wants to do, but it's not a fix. It's not a fix of step 3. What was step 3? Don't divorce her. After he marries her, don't divorce her. If he divorce, right? Torah says this woman that he raped has a mitzvah to marry. If she consents to it, she wants to marry the guy. He has a biblical obligation. Guy does. And then Torah says don't divorce her. But if he divorces her, he married her, and then he divorced her, he violated a violation of divorce. And then what's the thing if he divorced her? He has a mitzvah. Yes, it's lo yishalchu kol yamot. You're not allowed to send her away your whole life. Torah says, first it says marry her, then it says don't divorce her. So therefore, because that mitzvah came before the violation, based on what we said before, there should be lashes. And yet there isn't lashes. By the case of if he divorced this woman after he raped her, married her, violated the prohibition, don't divorce her, and then he takes her back, there is no lashes in that case. That case. Right, the positive commandment, right, came before, and the positive commandment here came before. So that's why each rabbi is using one case to prove one opinion, and the other rabbi is using the other case to prove the other opinion. And what the Gemara is doing here, the results are totally different, right? And therefore, 2 different rabbis come to 2 different results regarding this rule. Is there such a take a marry again? It came before. So therefore that's what the Gemara is saying. So we see it shouldn't take off the lashes. That's what the Gemara is, according to what we thought, based on the case of tumah, contamination, it shouldn't take it off. Okay. But it did. So that's what our whole Gemara is trying to figure out. How can we explain this case of the rape case that it's not the way it apparently looks, that the mitzvah came before the violation? We're going to try to show that the fix came specifically and only to address the violation, and therefore that's a different case and a different law result. Because the case of the contamination is the case of fix before the mitzvah before the violation. And the Gemara is going to show that the case of the rape case The reason why they're off the hook from lashes if he divorced her is because the Torah tells us a specific mitzvah that's coming specifically and only to remove. It's telling us subsequent to the violation, this is what I want you to do. If the Torah tells us after you do a violation, the Torah says, you know what? The Torah says clearly addresses the violation, following the violation, that removes lash. Like your case, Mr. Ashby. Torah says, don't leave over to the morning. And the Torah says, it tells you what to do. If you leave over to the morning, the Torah addresses the case after you violate it. The Torah tells you what you need to do. And we're going to try to show that the case of the rape case, the mitzvah to marry her after the divorce was written by the Torah in a way specifically addressing the divorce. Specifically addressing divorce. So therefore it's considered a fix because it's given as the fix. Not that it was written for before the divorce. If now we're saying that if we could somehow show that the mitzvah to marry this woman after the divorce is written specific, following, it's talking, it's specifically, it's before. So how is it after? Right, it's written before. So that's what the Gemara is going to show you, that even though it might be written before the violation, but it's specifically being written to address the post violation. And if I could show you that this mitzvah, even though in the order, even though it's written before, in the order of the Torah, it's written before, but the application of that writing before is specifically coming to address post the violation, so then it's called the real fix. Because even though it's written earlier, but if I could show you, so it seems that it wasn't. So we've been until now we've been under the impression that the which case, the tumah or not, or this case of rape, right? So the tumah was before violation. It was written before violation. It wasn't written. It wasn't written specifically to address the violation. It was written before the violation. It wasn't written, but it also has application. Right, because it's written before, but the purpose of writing before is to tell you what you need to do. It's coming to tell us what you need to do before the violation, and also it also would apply after the violation. But it's not coming head on to focus on the violation. It applies post violation. It's coming head on to tell you what you need to do independent of the violation. That's what it's coming for. But if I could show you that, Mr. Asby, because we're going to say that the mitzvah, when the Torah says to marry this woman by the rapist case, we're going to show you that it's coming specifically to address the violation. In contrast to in the order, right? Right. One says get out of the camp, give you a positive commandment before any violation. Yeah. Right. Marry this. Marry. Yes, don't divorce. But it's written the mitzvah to right. But the order of events in the Torah is first the Torah says marry her. Right. The first Torah says marry her, and if the Torah says marry her, the Torah says don't divorce her. But that mitzvah to marry her was not given post the divorce, was given before the divorce. It says marry her. But yet the Gemara says, Gemara is going to say that even though it was written before the violation, but it's coming specifically to address the violation. It's not coming to address prior to the violation. Even though it's written before the violation, the Gemara is going to try to say that this mitzvah of marrying this woman that he raped, which is written before the Torah says don't divorce her, is not coming to tell us before the violation. Even though it's written before the violation, it's not talking before the violation. sometimes you're like something like that. Some of the things in the Torah are not written in a specific order. So even if it's written as step one before the violation, the Gemara is going to say it's not coming to tell us prior to the violation, even though it's written that way. Right. Right, but the question is, right, the question. Right, but the only thing is we don't know if that difference will make a halachic difference. It is a difference. We have to see how to apply it. But if we're going to show, if I'm going to be able to show you that this positive commandment of marrying this woman, which was written before divorcing her, right? So it says marry her, it says don't divorce her. If I could show you that this verse of marrying her is coming, it's not coming to tell us this is what you need to do before you divorce her, before you marry. If I can show you that this positive commandment of marriage is coming to only to address if you divorced her. And how do you know to begin with to marry her? I know it from some other place. I have a kavachomer, or I have some other teaching that tells me that if the guy raped her, he has to marry her. So now that the Torah writes it, it's not coming to tell us before the divorce, because we already know that you have to marry her after the rape from some other place. So why does the Torah tell me you have to marry her if we already know you have to marry her? So that's what the Gemara wants to say, that the Torah is telling you have to marry her is coming to address the post-divorce. It's specifically this positive commandment of the Torah. Marry this woman that you raped. It's specifically coming to tell us a fix if you divorced her. But Nathan, Claire, but it's not coming to tell us after you raped her, marry her. That's not, even though the Torah writes it right after the rape, but that's not where this is case. That's not where this mitzvah is talking. This commandment to marry her is talking specifically if you divorced her. But how do we know you have to marry if you raped her? That we know from Moshe Shemra. We can learn out. So again, that's what our Gemara. Listen, this is at least this is the back. We'll have to. We'll get very good, very good. Not gonna win. This is the back and forth of the Gemara. We'll see if the Gemara is going to conclude like this. We don't know the end yet. We haven't got to the end. If the Gemara is going to remain with this idea or not remain with this idea. But this is what the Gemara is suggesting at this point. Gemara is trying, what the Gemara is trying to do. Listen, the other rabbi says no. The other rabbi says this is a clear case. This is a clear case that the mitzvah preceded the violation, and that's why, and the mitzvah preceded the violation, and you're still forgiven for the lashes, because the mitzvah that precedes also applies after violation, and you're off the hook. So that one rabbi said exactly that if you take the pasuk the way that it's written, literally, the order literally, and it's referring to before the violation. But we're trying to address how the original opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, how are they going to explain this case? Because they came to a different conclusion. The rabbis came to the conclusion if something preceded the violation, if a positive commandment precedes a violation, it's not called a fix, and it's still subject to lashes. So now we have a problem. How do we address the case of the rapist case? That's what we're trying to address, because that case, the mitzvah to marry her came before the violation, morning, and he's not getting lashes. How do we explain it? So that's what the Gemara wants to say, because really, even though the way it's written seems to indicate that positive commandment came before the violation, but that positive commandment is really coming specifically to address the violation. And that's what the Gemara is trying to do. Yaron, you want to say something? Good. Good, okay. Now with all that backdrop to now, hopefully we're getting it, everyone's getting it better. The Gemara, that's what the right. The only way he would receive Malkut. Again, we have again. But morning. Right, but the question is, why is there no lashes? The question is, why is there no lashes in the case of when he forced her and he divorced her? Why is there no lashes there? So the Gemara wants to suggest that the reason why there's no lashes, because the Torah wrote a specific pasuk, a specific positive commandment, specifically and only to address this law of how to, Torah wrote it post-affix, talking about post-affix. What did you say? This is the opinion to bring back Rabbi Yochanan's original opinion. Rabbi Yochanan said, if you have a positive commandment before the violation, right, Yehuda? If you have a positive commandment before a violation, Rabbi Yochanan originally said that that's not called a fix. Therefore, even though that positive commandment that was written before the violation also applies post-violation, that's not called a fix. And it will not remove the lashes. But the Gemara has a question. What does he do with the case of the rape case, which is also a positive commandment before the violation, and yet it takes off the lashes? Or we'll bring it back his first stand. His first, it would get lashes if a positive commandment preceded the violation. And now we had a whole question on his opinion. What does he do with the rape case? The rape case is the positive commandment also came before the violation, and nevertheless, he gets off the hook from lashes. You just told me if the positive commandment comes before the violation, he doesn't get off the hook because it's not coming as a fix, it's coming as be independent of the violation. So what does he do with the case of the rape case? So to that, the Gemara is going to say that the mitzvah, the positive commandment came after the violation, even though it's written before. Because how do you do that? How do I do that? So the Gemara says because the mitzvah to marry her after the rape, which is before the violation of divorcing her, that mitzvah was learned out from some other way. I don't need this positive commandment of the Torah to marry this woman that he raped. It's not needed. It's not coming. Those words are not talking for that for post-rape, right after the rape. Those words are coming if he divorced this woman. Because how do we know he has to marry a post the rape? From Motzi Shemra or from some other source. And once we have some other source, good morning, Charles. Once we have another source to tell us that he has to marry her, so what do we need this pasuk that he has to marry her? We already know it. The answer is these words are coming specifically to address the divorce. So if it's coming specifically to address the divorce, then it would take off the lashes. But then that's the old rule of nota. You're left over to the morning. Torah says if you leave over the Korban Pesach to the morning, burn it. And if you burn, and that mitzvah to burn it removes the lashes. There's no lashes. So that's what the Gemara is saying is the same thing over here. As before. Right. Right. Exactly. Post the divorce. And therefore, since it's coming to address the divorce, that removes the lashes. And that's how he gets out of the apparent question on his ruling from the case of rape. He's not using it for before. Right. It's even though it's written before, but it's not. But you have something written here, but it's not. But the application of these words are specifically not from before. It's not when the Torah writes it before.
that's the reason. It was like a warning of the birth, wasn't it fixed to the grave? No, you don't do that. Is that in connection with this, or that's still, I can't use it, just can't use it?
I think we just don't need, the point is we don't need it. This verse is not needed for post right after the rape. We have some other verse that tells us this mitzvah. So therefore, it's not considered a mitzvah that's given. This mitzvah, these words, Maria, are not coming, specifically talking about a case if he divorced. That's the application of those words. That's what it's coming to teach us. So therefore, it's coming specifically to address a violation. And when it's coming to address a violation, there's no lashes on such a thing. He himself retracted, but the other rabbi brings it back. He himself retracted, the other rabbi brings it back. As Chanana ben Akasha Omer, Rasta Kodesh Baruch Hu Yisrael. Speak Hebrew Torah Mishnah Adonai Chafetz Amas Kol Yadil Torah v'Yadir. Amen. 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 Yishmer HaMavarach L'Mir Maya.
It's right up. August 2065. Committed.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Morning. Nathan, welcome back. A lot going on, right? Yeah. Just heavy stuff. Joseph, have a good Shabbos. Have a good Shabbat. All the best.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you for being on.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.